Helen Yee here with Eyes on the Game Sports, and I'm joined by the legendary Hall of Fame boxing referee, Joe Cortez. Thank you so much for your time and also being in your ring.
Well, it's an honor for me. Sometimes I have to pinch myself. It's like a dream come true doing what I'm doing today with boxing after most of my life being in the sport that I love so much.
And I'm sure that you saw what happened the other day with Canelo Alvarez and Amir Khan. And speaking of Canelo, he was the last, one of the last guys that you refereed, right? The last fight?
Yes, my last fight as a referee was September 2012. I retired that night with close to 200 World Championship fights. And Canelo Alvarez and José Lopez was my last fight. And watching Canelo Alvarez fight this past Saturday night against the British Amir Khan was not a surprise the way he won, because I had predicted he would win by a knockout in the sixth round. And I was close to the end. I said, sixth round was almost up, and I told my colleague with ESPN, I said, listen, you know what? He has 30 seconds to go in this round, and all it takes is one punch. And as soon as I said that, he nailed Amir Khan with the right hand and put him away. But thank God he came out okay. He wasn't hurt seriously, even though he was out for a while.
Some people did say that Amir was winning quite a few rounds before getting knocked out. Were you impressed by his performance?
I was not impressed because I knew that he can fight that type of a fight, refereeing his fight in the past. The last one I refereed him was with Marcos Maidana, the Argentinian fighter. And I knew that he had the speed, and that's what got him my scorecard the first two rounds. After that, it was close third, close fourth, close fifth, all in favor of Canelo. Then I can see Canelo was coming on a little bit. But like all great fighters, it takes a couple of rounds to feel your opponent out. Once you feel him out, then you say, okay, now I'm going to make a little feint move, and I'm going to throw a left, and then you bring your guard down a little bit, and you clock it with the right hand, and that's what happens. Sometimes the speed can outmaneuver a heavy hitter, but this night it failed for Amir Khan.
And speaking of knockouts, though, I mean, you've refereed so many amazing fights. What's it like seeing a knockout up close?
Well, it's as a referee, our duty is to protect the fighters from taking unnecessary punishment. And I've seen a fight up close. Of course, you kind of like that's not the way the referee wants to see it. Know that his family or close friends, but in boxing, that's what the fans come to see, the knockout. That's why when Mike Tyson fought, everybody knew he was going to knock his opponent out most of the time in the early rounds, early minutes, the first minute. And people would come to see that, just to see that dramatic knockout punch. So the fans like that. But as a referee, I'm concerned, especially when a fighter hits the canvas the way Amir Khan did, and with his head so hard and lay there unconscious for a while, just like Manny Pacquiao when he got knocked out by Manny Marquez. It's scary sometimes, but it's not a good feeling for a referee. But the fans, that's what they come to see, a great knockout.
And luckily they're okay after, and Amir Khan, judging by his post after, he's doing okay. But Canelo, so next, it will be Canelo and Triple G. Hopefully, can you give us a breakdown of that fight?
Well, Triple G is an undefeated Russian fighter who brings a lot of skills to boxing. He's not the greatest skillful as far as boxing is concerned, but he's got the power and he's got the great conditioning. When he nails you with either hand, you're going down. And that's what the fans want to see when he fights Canelo Alvarez. And I believe that fight is going to happen either late September or May of next year. I think it'll be May of next year. But Canelo will fight again this year, but probably not against Triple G.
Who do you think he'll fight?
Well, there's a couple other middleweights out there. I heard some names mentioned. Lebux from Canada, and you also have Danny Jacobs, other middleweight WBA champion, who's a dangerous, hard-hitting fighter. So there's two other fighters out there. Danny Jacobs is a very dangerous fighter. He has a great knockout punch, and you don't hear his name mentioned that much, but he's one of the fighters that everybody wants to stay away from. And I think that Triple G will be risking fighting him, because if he fights Danny Jacobs, he'll get a nice paycheck, but it won't be nothing compared to if he fights Canelo Alvarez. And if I was his manager or promoter, I wouldn't put him against Danny Jacobs. I wouldn't have guaranteed a big fight with Canelo Alvarez. That's where the money's at, and that's where he'll make up over $200 million for that fight, and so will Canelo Alvarez.
Who would win that fight when they do?
You know, right now it's a little early. I have to be watching their training. It's a process, so you have to see between now and then. But right now it's like a toss-up. But when it gets closer to the fight, watching them train, their conditioning, and see how they're doing, I can give you a better prediction. But right now, it's toss-up either way.
And earlier you mentioned Manny Pacquiao and the knockout there. Well, obviously Manny just retired. What did you think about his last performance?
Well, Manny looked great against Timothy Bradley. He looked outstanding, and he has a fight. He's a fighter that still has some good fights left in him, but you know, he wants to be a politician, and I understand he just won his elections in the Philippines. So I don't know, maybe that's a good way for him to go out on top with a big win. But I think that right now Manny Pacquiao is thinking of retirement. But then again, so was Floyd Mayweather, and now you hear this buzz out there that he may be coming back in September and fighting someone else, which I think will happen because he got so close to breaking Rocky Marciano's record. He tied it at 49-0, and why not? If you got that far, why not go one more and break the record and make it 50-0? And I know last year he went to watch Danny Garcia and Robert the Ghost Guerrero in L.A. When I saw him in the audience, I was saying to myself, you know what? Floyd, I think, is here scouting Danny Garcia. And Danny Garcia looks like he's a name fighter. He's a world champion. And I think Floyd Mayweather will probably make a fight, probably make an offer to Danny Garcia. And Floyd Mayweather, he feels he can beat Garcia, and that'll probably be win number 50. He'll make another $75, $100 million and walk away from boxing with a broken record of Marciano's record.
Yeah, and history obviously will be made. But right now there's some rumors circulating in regards to Floyd Mayweather. And I spoke to his dad at the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame red carpet, where they were saying he may come back to fight an MMA fighter. Do you think that's just rumors and that's it?
I think that's just, just the MMA fighter he's a featherweight champion, McGregor, and I think that's maybe just a lot of publicity. First of all, MMA, I don't think Floyd would ever fight an MMA guy. Yeah. That'd be going like into a circus act. Why fight a guy MMA when you can fight a guy in real boxing? Because if he beats a guy from MMA, you can't say that's if he beats him, they'll say, well, who the hell was he? He didn't really make it in boxing. You want to break the Marciano record, make it with a clean fight with a real boxer, not an MMA guy. Yeah. It'll tarnish. There'll be the asterisk next to 50. He broke Marciano's record against an MMA guy. Come on, that's a joke.
Yeah. No, and that's where a lot of people are saying, MMA, like they would win in an MMA match, and then boxing, a boxer would win in a boxing match. But right now, who's your favorite boxer to watch?
Well, right now you have Canelo Alvarez and Triple G, and you got Ramon Chocolatito Gonzalez from Nicaragua, who's a great flyweight champion, probably pound for pound the best fighter in boxing today, even though he doesn't get that recognition because he's a little guy, but he's got all the skills. He got a good knockout ratio. He's a great champion. But I got to go Ramon Chocolatito Gonzalez, Gennady Golovkin, and we just talking about him, the hard-hitting Canelo Alvarez.
Yes.
So you got three great fighters out there that are really superb, and three to really watch and keep the fans busy for the next couple of years.
Now, are you a fan of Anthony Joshua? Because he's kind of burst into the scene, the new IBF world champion.
Well, Joshua is a fighter that no one has really got to know who he is yet in boxing here in the United States. He's a fighter that brings skills, but he's yet to be proven in boxing. We got to see him fight Deontay Wilder, fight a named fighter. When you get through Deontay Wilder, if you can beat Deontay Wilder, then you'll be considered a threat in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. And also, though, let's get into, when you were a referee, what was, the craziest thing you've ever heard from a fighter while you're refereeing?
The craziest thing, I don't know if it was crazy, but it was funny as hell, when John Ruiz fought Holyfield, and Holyfield hit him with a low punch, really low, and a matter of fact, it wasn't Holyfield, it was Kirk Johnson. It was for the heavyweight championship, and Kirk Johnson hit him with a real low blow several times. As a matter of fact, I had to disqualify Kirk Johnson for repeated low blows, and I remember John Garcia, when he got hit the second time low, he said, "Hey, come on, Joe, come on, ref, man, I want to have babies." So I thought that was funny. That was one of the funniest lines I ever heard. But I kind of laughed when he said it. But, he did hit him low several times. And after that, I had to end up disqualifying Kirk Johnson during a heavyweight championship fight.
Wow. Did you laugh in the ring?
I didn't laugh, but I put a big smile on my face, but that's funny. But he has some crazy things in boxing. Have you seen some crazy things in boxing? You see when the fan man came in the boxing ring when Evander Holyfield was fighting Riddick Bowe, fight number 2. That was really crazy. Who would have thought a man would come in a parachute into Caesar's parking lot where they had the big ring set up? I used to do crazy things in boxing. One time I saw a mother of a fighter climb into the ring with a heel of her shoe and hitting the opponent who was beating on her son and cracked his head wide open. I mean, it was crazy. You see some crazy things happen. Put it up on YouTube and you'll see. And it was crazy things that can happen in boxing. And of course, you see things like the ropes break down or it's just crazy. But the oddest things in boxing, another crazy one was when some fighter hit his opponent after the decision was rendered. He was so mad that he lost the fight that he came over to the side of the fighter who didn't know he was standing by his side and clocked him with no gloves or nothing on, clocked him on the chin and knocked out this guy after the fellow had beat him already, and the ring announcer announced the decision. This guy was the champion. All of a sudden, he gets hit with a shot up from the blind side and knocks out the opponent. They arrested the fighter, probably got suspended for the rest of his life. But you see some crazy things in boxing, so you have to be prepared. That's why here in Nevada, we have good corner inspectors in the corners to prevent these kind of things from happening. You can't, it's not 100% proof, but we try to minimize some crazy doings in boxing.
And you guys do a great job at keeping it, on the low. But has Floyd Mayweather ever said anything crazy during a fight?
No. I refereed Floyd on 4 different occasions, and I never had any issues with him. He was always been a good, clean-cut fighter, no issues. And he turned out to be one of the great ones. And I think boxing needs more fighters like with Floyd Mayweather's skills. Even though he's not a fan favorite because of the hit and don't get hit, they want to see a slugfest. But Floyd Mayweather's got all the wins and he's got all the money.
That is true. And what about Pacquiao?
Manny Pacquiao is another gentleman. I refereed him on 3 occasions, and he's 4 occasions. There are 3 occasions. And another great fighter, great personality, great skills. And once in a blue moon, you get a fighter with the skills of Manny Pacquiao.
Are you close with many of the fighters today?
I'm not close with them because I never was as a referee, but now that I'm a boxing analyst, I get to interview some of these fighters. I get to know them. They know who I am, so it makes it easier for interviews with them, the trainers or whoever. It makes it a lot more easier now that I'm retired.
And lastly for you, Joe, obviously you've refereed so many incredible fights. Which one or two has been the most memorable?
Well, I'll tell you one that I can always think of, and people would agree with me on this. When George Foreman became heavyweight champion of the world at the age of 45, 20 years after winning the championship the first time. And you never hear of that, of a fighter coming back 20 years later, become champion again. And, of course, Roberto Duran against Iran Barkley for the middleweight championship. Everybody thought Roberto Duran was finished. He ended up beating Iran Barkley for the middleweight championship in Atlantic City. And, of course, I've done so many great fights, Lennox Lewis, Manny Pacquiao, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hector Camacho, Amir Khan, Canelo Alvarez. It's been just so many for the last 3 decades that I've refereed. It's just been some of the great fighters of all time. So Riddick Bowe, just so many great fighters. Larry Holmes, Mike Tyson 9-time, Julio Cesar Chavez, Oscar De La Hoya, just to name a few, Felix Trinidad. It's been a good run, and it's been sometimes, like I said before, I had to pinch myself to believe that I've gone through so much of the fight with some of these legends in boxing.
And you are a legend yourself as well, the boxing referee, Hall of Famer. And but by the way, what was Mike Tyson like, though?
Mike Tyson was a gentleman most of the times, except for when the ear biting, when he bit Evander Holyfield's ear off. And in this last fight, I had to take points from him for intentionally headbutting his opponent. But other than that, Mike Tyson, if you know him personally like I do now, he's a gentleman, class act guy. He's turned his life around, and he's really doing real good in the community and worldwide. I think Mike Tyson, it was a plus for boxing.
That's great. And so right now you mentioned that you are doing a lot of boxing analysis work for ESPN. Where can the fans follow you? I noticed behind us the fairbutfirm.com.
Yeah, that's one my website, fairbutfirm.com, but you can look at ESPN Deportes, DEPORTES.com, and you'll see a lot of my segments on ESPN.com. And if you watch our Golpers on Monday or anytime during the ESPN, especially a lot of Spanish stuff I try to do. And of course, my first language is English, and I get by 90% with my Spanish, so I try to mix it up a little bit with the fans on the Latino side.
That's great. Well, Joe Cortez, the legend, the Hall of Famer boxing referee, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, and great being with you here.
Thank you.